Hello, this is Mrs. Holtey, and this is a recording for our lesson 2.6 for Thursday, September the 17th. Okay, our warm-up for today will be continuing working on our lesson rounding. Remember, this isn't from our textbook, but this is a sheet that I found to help us practice rounding. Now yesterday, this is the side that you're working on. Yesterday you worked on the nearest tens. You should round to the nearest 10. So I'm going to do a couple so that you can check your work. If you're rounding the nearest 10 and you have 984, that means the answer is going to be 980. Okay. We're rounding to the nearest 10, so we look to the next place value to the right, and we ask, is it 5 or more? If it is 5 or more, we would add 1 to this digit. But since 4 is less than 5, we leave it at 980. Okay, let's take this one. If we're rounding it to the tens place, which is what our instructions say, we have 13,936 rounded to the tens place, pardon me. Okay, you need to use your knowledge of the place values to help you make your decisions about where you round to. You have to identify the nearest 10. You're rounding to the tens place. Okay, today we're rounding some more. Round to the nearest 100. Okay, well, you have to identify the hundreds place value. And in this number, the 7 is sitting in the hundreds place value. Now, you will often get the question, what is the value of this digit? The value of this digit is 700, because although the digit is a 7, it is sitting in the hundreds place, so it has a value of 700. Okay, we're rounding to the nearest 100, so we would look at this digit and ask, is it 5 or more? And yes, it is, so we would add 1 to this digit. So rounding 325,793 to the nearest 100 would look like that. We would have 325,800. Okay, we're rounding to the nearest 100. Here's the 100. This is less than 5, so we have 49,800. Okay. Now you're doing this, if you have a printer, you can print out from this form that I loaded. Okay. To complicate matters, 2 pages may have been sent with this. Be sure that you are doing the page that has 21 at the bottom. Okay. If you have a printer, you can print this out and it might make things a little easier. But if you don't have a printer, just do this work in your math journal. Be sure to identify this as 3A. This whole column is A. So this problem is 3A. This problem would be 3B. I'm going to upload today a form to go with this. You can begin filling it out. Okay, we're going to do the bottom 2 numbers on Friday as our warm-up. Okay, we're practicing rounding. Okay, if you have questions about this, please write me in chat on Teams and give me the specific question that you're speaking of. Okay, now that's our warm-up. Today in class, we're talking about comparing decimals. So in your math journal, you would write September the 17th on the top, and you would write 2.6 compare decimals on your title for today's entry into your journal, your math journal. Okay. What we hope to learn at the end of this is how to compare decimals. You're trying to decide which one is bigger or which one is smaller based by looking at the number. Okay, we can do this. Here's the real life scenario that they give us. The city park covers 6,400 square miles. Okay, I say 6,400 because the 4 is in the hundredths place. You could read it 0.64 or 64 hundredths. It's a little better way to read it. Okay. About 18 hundredths of the park is covered by water, and about 2/10 of the park is covered by paved walkways. Is more of the park covered by water or by paved walkways? Okay, so I underline my question. Okay. I underline these two numbers, these two pieces of information, because I believe that they're important to help us solve the problem. Okay, our little blue box over here, anytime you see something blue in our textbooks, it tells you to think about this. Cross out unnecessary information. Well, we don't really need to know, as far as our problem's sake, that the park covers 0.64 square miles or 6,400 square miles. Okay, so all we're concerned about is these two numbers. So it says use a model. Okay, so we have our base 10 flat here that now represents 1. Okay, and so I've shaded 1/10 here because the 1 is in the tenths place. And I've covered in 8 of these little squares because I have 8 100ths. And this square is divided into 8 little squares to represent hundredths. Okay. This is the earlier form of our base 10 flat that we used. It said shade 2/10. Well, there's 10 divisions. This square is divided into 10 columns. And if I have 2 of them, I would shade 2 of them. Okay. So here we can see with a picture form that we can see that 18 hundredths is smaller than 2/10. Okay. Just like there's nothing in the hundredths place. But now you can see that the 20 is bigger than the 18. If you have 20 hundredths, it's larger than 18 hundredths. Okay, we can also use a number line to, sorry about that, I'm not sure what happened there. We can also use the number line, locate 18 hundredths on your number line. Well, first let's check out what the number line means. We start at 0, and we meet at the end here is 0.5, which is half. So we don't even have a whole number represented here on our number line. We have half a number. So this is 1/10 and this is 2/10. Well, wait a minute. 2/10 is one of the things we're locating. So we can make a circle right there, a little dot. 18 hundredths. So I can count 18 marks, or I can look. 18 has 1/10, so I can start here at the 10th place, and then I can count 8 more. And it gets us to this dot, which is the 18 hundredths place. So 0.18 is 18 hundredths. 2/10 is 2/10, which is equivalent to 20 hundredths. Well, 18 hundredths is less than 20 hundredths, so 0.18 is less than 0.2. So it has a question here. So more of the park is covered by what? Well, we may have forgotten what the 18 represents and what the 0.2 represents. The 18 hundredths represent. So we go back up to our question and get a little refresher on it. About 18 hundredths of the park is covered by water, and 2/10 of the park is covered by paved walkways. Okay, so now we can for sure go down here and answer the question correctly. Okay, we've got some of the beginning of an idea about how to compare decimals. We work through the next page and we're going to have a better idea. Okay, I would take a red pen. You can pause the video and get it. Doesn't have to be red. You can use a highlighter. You can use a colored pencil, but I would put some color, some kind of emphasis on this statement here. Place value. You can compare numbers written as decimals by using place value. Comparing decimals is like comparing whole numbers. Always compare the digits in the greatest place value position first. This is a very key piece of information. They're going to give us an example. Tim has 0.5 of a dollar. Now we've learned that this is 5/10 of a dollar. Okay, if you have 5/10 of something, it means you have half of it. Sanaya has 0.05 of a dollar. She has 5/100. This is what we learned day before yesterday. And this person has 5/10. Okay, so we're going to shade it on our model. So this is Tim. Tim has 5/10. So we're going to shade 5/10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then I can shade this in. Now look, he has half. Tim has half of a dollar. Okay, Sanaya, she has 5/10. 1, 2, sorry, she has 5/100. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So obviously Tim has more money by a lot. Okay, by 10 times. Tim has 10 times the amount of money that this girl has. Okay. Now we can use our place value chart to record the differences. Well, nobody has anything in the ones, but Tim has 5/10. Sanaya has nothing in the tenths, but she has 5 in the hundreds. Okay. 5/10 is greater than 0/10, so 5/10 is greater than 5/100. Okay. Starting to sink in. Good. So we're going to compare this. I've already filled this out, but you can not look at mine and fill yours out. Compare 39/100 to 42/100. Okay. Shade the model to help. Okay. 39. I have this 3 is in the tenths place, so I know to shade in 3 of the columns because each column represents 1/10, and I have 3 of them. The 9 is in the hundredths place value, so I can bubble in 9 of the little squares to represent 0.39. I'll do the same with the 0.42 or the 42/100 over here. This 4 is in the tenths place, so I can shade in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there's this 2 is in the hundredths place, so I shade in 2 of those. Okay. Now that you can visually see which one is larger, now we're going to move to just comparing the place value positions on a place value chart. Okay, we're going to write less than, or greater than, or equal to. So we have 4.5 and compared to 2.89. We're going to look at the greatest place value position first. Well, in this case, the 1's place value is the largest position that we have, and 4 is greater than 2. So we automatically know that 4.5 is greater than 2.89. But let's finish filling this out. 4 is in the 1's, and then the 5 is in the tenths. Then the 2 is in the 1's, the 8 in the tenths, and the 9 in the hundredths. Okay. And number 3, we are comparing 7/10 to 0.54, or 7/10 compared to 54/100. You're comparing 7/10 to 54/100. Well, the tenths is the largest place value that we have. So this is 7/10, and they don't have anything in the hundreds. That doesn't matter. We have 5/10 here, and they have 4/10 in the 100. But the 7 is bigger than the 5. So we put greater than. Okay? I hope you're getting closer to saying, oh, I can do this. I understand what's going on. As long as you consider this piece of information, you will be fine. So put this in the forefront of your mind. Okay, let's do number 4. Ricardo and Brandon ran the 15-meter race. Ricardo finished in 4 minutes and 89 seconds. And Brandon finished in 4 minutes and 83 seconds. What was the time of the runner who finished first? Okay, so this is our question. We're going to underline it. But let's get this idea to sink in our head. Who finished first? When you win a race, you're the fastest person. You have the fastest time. That means the person who finishes a race first, left the S out. Person who finishes the race first is the person with the smallest time. If it takes you 3 minutes to run a distance and another person 4 minutes to run the distance, you're going to come in a lot earlier before the other person. Keep this in mind. Okay. So, what are you asked to find? Let's be clear before we do a lot of figuring and a lot of thinking about this. Let's be clear what the question is. That's why we underlined it. What is the time of the runner who finished first? Well, we're looking for the time of the runner who finishes first. What do you need to do to find the answer? Well, we've talked about two ways we can find the answer. We've talked about using a place value chart, or we talked about comparing the greatest place value position first. Let's write our number. They gave us some space to do some work in. So I wrote down the two numbers. 489 and 483. Well, the 4s are the same, the 8s are the same, but in this hundreds place value, the digits are different. So the 9 is larger than the 3. So this number is less than this number. Or if you prefer to do the place value chart, I drew a place value. So I put, this is the ones. I put both numbers start with a 4. I designate the hundredths place. And there's two 8s. Then, the tenths place has 8s in it, and the hundredths place has a 9 and a 3, respectively. And the 4s are equal to each other, the 8s are equal to each other. But wait a minute, the 9 is greater than the 3. Now, remember what we're looking for: the time of the runner who finishes first. Well, whoever finishes first is going to have the smallest amount of time. Therefore, 4.83 is less than 4.89. Or you could read it, 4 and 83 hundredths is less than 4 and 89 hundredths. Okay. And we're not done yet because we haven't put the answer up here in the correct place. Because we need to 4 minutes and 83 seconds. That's our time. We put in the bubble. Look back. Does our answer make sense? Well, yes, it does. Then it says to explain. Well, since you compared the size of these two numbers, okay, and looking for the fastest runner, sorry, I wrote in cursive there, and lesser of the 2. Yes, our answer makes sense. And looking for the fastest runner, you would look for the shortest time, the lesser of the 2 times. Okay. You can pause the video if you need more time. But we're going to move on to number 5. So this is multi-step. That's okay, we can do this. Jack had $14.53 in his pocket. Sam had $14.25 in his pocket. And Jill had $14.40 in her pocket. Question is, who had more money, Jack or Jill? Okay, that's one question. Well, next question, there's two questions here. Did Sam have more money than either Jack or Jill? Okay, so we've got to compare these amounts to be able to answer the question. So here's what I did. I want to line these digits up, and I lined them up on the decimal. And I wrote Jack, he has $14.53. I really should write a dollar sign there. Sam, well, let's write how much Sam had. $14.25. And we're going to put Jill's on here too, because we need to consider hers as well. Okay. Well, the first question, I wrote a little 1 there, just to remind myself that there are two questions. Who has more money, Jack or Jill? So we're going to compare Jack's to Jill's. Who has more? Well, they both have a 1. They both have $14 and something. Okay, so we don't have to look at the dollars anymore, because they're the same. But here in this tens place, Jack has a 5, but Jill has a 4. That means Jack has more. Okay? Jack is greater. So who had more money, Jack or Jill? Well, Jack had more. Okay? Question 2. Did Sam have more money than either of them? Okay? That means we're going to compare Sam's amount to Jack's and Jill. Did he have more money than either of them? Well, let's look. They all have $14 and some change. But look, in the tenths place, Sam only has a 2. And Jack has a 5, and Jill has a 4. So no, he didn't have any more money. Sam did not have more than Jack or Jill. Okay? Now, as long as you can keep this piece of information in your mind while you're doing these problems, things are going to go well with you. Always compare the digits in the greatest place value position first. I'll take a highlighter. Always compare the digits of the greatest place value position first. Okay. I want you to do page 64. You can turn the page, you can pause the video, turn the page, and do them. Okay. Now let's talk about 64. Let's go over the answers together to see how well you did. If you didn't get something right, let's figure out where your understanding is not quite correct. Okay, number 6 says it's multi-step. That's okay, we can do this. The Venus flytrap closes in 3/10 of a second, and the water wheel plant closes in 2/10 of a second. Which decimal is less than 3 but greater than 2? Okay, it gave us this information, so I wrote it down. Then I realized, hey, that's wanted me to compare these two. We usually put the smaller number on the left and the larger number on the right of a number line. So I set it up that way. So I'm looking for one of these numbers that's between 2/10 and 3/10. Okay. A lot of times when you have a word problem, if you draw a little picture, it will help you keep things clear. You don't need to hold everything in your mind. You can write it down. Okay. So, which is bigger? Well, this is not bigger. Oh, sorry, this is not even as big as 2/10. 32 hundredths, well, that's bigger than 3/10. So both of those are out. Then I consider C, 21 hundredths. Well, it's 1 100th larger than 2. Okay, so this is going to be right in here. So that is our answer. And let's continue checking. 4/10, well, 4/10 is greater than 3/10. Okay. Number 7. Now I'll put a star by it because there's a question in your homework that is very, very similar. It says representations. Which model represents a number greater than 0.65 or 0.65, or 65 hundredths? Be a better way to read it. 0.65 or 65 hundredths. Okay. Well, let's just go by each block and figure out how much it's worth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, well this one's worth 6/10 because we know that each column is worth 1/10. Okay, go to B. How many? They have all of these tenths are full. Let's see how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is 7/10. Well, 6/10 was not enough. We want something that is greater than 65/100. But 70 is greater than 65/100, so this is our answer. But let's check the other two in case we've made a mistake somewhere. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/10. So we put a 5 in the tenths place, and we count these hundreds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 55/100. Okay, which is not greater than 0.65. D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6/10, and we have 5/100. So that is equal to 0.65, but not greater. Okay, number 8. Now we're going to use a number line to compare 0.24 and 0.3. We're going to compare 24/100 and 3/10. So let's put these on the number line. Well, let's look at our number line. We have a 0 and we have 0.5. Okay. Well, here's 1/10. Here's 2/10. We're looking for 2/10 and 4/100. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The little lines represent 100th. 100th. From here to here is 100. So 2.4 is sitting here on the number line. 3/10. Well, 3/10 is the same thing as 30/100. 3/10 is equal to 30/100. It's the same amount. Okay, so our question is, we want to compare these. We've discovered that 0.24 is closer to 0. So 2.4 or 24/100 is less than 3/10. So now we've written this on the side because we figured it out. Now let's go find the number that matches up. The numbers are in the right order, but this is not the sign we're looking for. Okay, 20, it's D. Okay, so you be careful of the details. Okay, question number 9 says Maria has $3.68 in her pocket. Dennis has less money in his pocket than Maria does. Which could be an amount that Dennis has in his pocket? Have you already underlined the question? You need to underline every question. It's proof that you read it, and also it helps you keep the question in mind so that you don't answer another question that you thought of. Okay? You need to you need to answer the question that you've been asked. Okay. So I wrote $3.68 over here. Well, Maria has more, so I put a greater than sign. Dennis has less. So I'm looking for a number that is less than $3.68. Well, first one I come to. Well, the threes are the same, the tenths places are the same, but the hundreds places. A 0 is less than 8, so the answer has to be 8. And you can check each of these two. $3.78 is more, $7.38 is more, and $13.24 is a lot more. Okay? Now, if you're struggling understanding what we're working on, you can go back and start looking. You can go back and view the Math Antics video. Okay? Every day this week has used heavily the information we learned the day before. So if you didn't have a clear understanding of 2.1, okay, 2.2 is going to be a little harder. Okay? 2.1 helps you with 2.2, and so on down the way. Okay? 2.3 and 2.4 really build on each other. And 2.5, we're using all that we've learned this week to answer these questions. Okay? You really need to get the place value positions in your mind, and you're able to use them. Okay? You have some charts that you've possibly glued in your math journal to help you. You certainly have the Math Antics videos and other videos that I've done over the lessons to help you. Yes, I know it may take more time to go back and see the videos, but if you don't understand something, we're just going to be building on this information. It's also helpful if you're behind in doing your lessons, because we've had several layers of computer problems. Okay, you still need to do the earlier lessons first and do them in order. Okay, please do not stress about the due dates. Okay, many of you and myself are having computer issues, and we're just going to work it out. Okay, now while you're stressing about things, please keep your stress about the computer things separate than your math stress. They don't need to join together. Okay, we have enough computer stress, most of us, to take up all the space we have. Okay, but if you can mentally divide out the two stresses. Okay, I'm having trouble with the computer. Okay, let me work on my math. Okay, you can do this. Now, what I'm taking a grade on is the odds of 2.6 compare decimals of page 65, and the next page is 66. Now the form that you go to online to put your answers in, you're doing the odds. So the first question is number 1. Question number 2 is really question number 3 in your book. Okay, so you're going to go and you're going to fill in the answers for this. Now I've had to make on the, because we have new people joining us, I've had to make on the forms, the answer document, I've had to make all the questions into multiple choice questions. Okay, so you're going to see number 3 here, which is going to be number 2 on the forms. It's not a multiple choice question. Okay, so I've given you, is it less than, greater than, or equal to for you to choose from. Okay, I think if you spend a little bit of time with it, it'll start making sense. Okay. So that is our lesson today for Thursday. We did our warm-up, and we're working on 2.6, comparing decimals. Okay, thank you. Have a good evening. Please try not to stress and just take care of your math. If you have any questions, just chat with me on Teams. Thank you.